Hello, welcome to episode two of Get Ahead with Abhi podcast. Today we have Saranya. Saranya is a product manager at Amazon. She is a part of the Alexa team. She has a very impressive resume. She was a product manager at Apple and then at Yahoo and then at Coinbase, and now she's at Amazon. So in today's podcast, we're going to learn more about her transition to product management, a little bit about her day in her life, and then we're going to talk more about the hiring and interview process at Amazon, and then we'll do a mock interview. So that's a lot to cover in one podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Saranya.
My
How are you
pleasure,
doing?
Ravi. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I heard the first podcast is doing pretty great, so excited for this episode as well.
Okay, thanks. So, why don't you start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself, your career journey as a product manager?
Yeah, I think you summarized my product manager experience. But just to add, I'm a software engineer turned banker turned product manager. So I've done quite a few pivots in my career. Currently, I work on the devices side of Amazon, been with Amazon for about 3 years now. And my focus is on the Alexa Plus, which is the new AI assistant that Amazon has launched. And currently, I'm focusing my energy on integrating Alexa Plus into the Amazon tablets.
Okay, awesome. Uh, how has your transition been to product manager? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. Personally, for me, I had some constraints about the location and then the type of industry I wanted to work in. That was the reason I switched over from banking to product management. I had a technical background. I had a bachelor's in information sciences, so I wasn't new to the computer science world. Uh, and in banking, a lot of people still think about it as the traditional manual heavy banking, but I think the industry has transitioned very far. There are a lot of strides worldwide that banking industry has made in digital banking. So my first step was find that sweet spot. I went into a re-engineering project in a bank and started working on the requirement gathering and kind of doing the product manager work. And once I had the experience, it was easy for me to showcase, hey, I'm somebody who understands business plus technical side of things. And then that gave me a foray into like full titled product manager role at Apple.
Okay, so when you joined Apple or when you were interviewing at Apple, you weren't a product manager, right?
No, no, I was not.
Okay,
I was a business analyst in a bank. I was working for Union Bank. I was working on their regulatory reporting engineering project, which is, like these banks do a lot of reporting for Sarbanes-Oxley and like other acts. So I
okay,
was working on how that can be digitized instead of a lot of manual work that the banks have to do.
okay. So how did you um, convince the recruiters at Apple that you can be a good product manager?
Yeah, I mean, my Apple journey, once they reached out, they did interview me for a couple of teams. And then, luckily, because of the consumer focus, so the team that I joined at Apple was iTunes, where iTunes had like a chart. If you go into itunes.com, not today, but when I joined, it'll give you who are the top 100 artists by geography, by time, what are the top 100 albums, what are the top 100 songs, etc. So it was a lot of like data heavy number crunching work. So it was very easy for me to show parallels, saying, hey, you need somebody who understands numbers, but you also need somebody who understands customers, and my skills are transferable. So, of course, like I did not go into Apple Pay, which was non existent at that time, I think. It was Apple Music, but Apple Music also had some unique challenges. They wanted to come up with the subscription tiers. They wanted to come up with the licensing fee and how they pay to like big houses. For example, Sony Music might be owning a particular song, And depending on how many times Apple Music consumers played it, Apple is supposed to pay royalty or like licensing fee to Sony Music, and those are where like number heavy processing that Apple had to do, and they needed somebody who understood numbers and who's also better with technology. So I found that overlapping intersection points, and that helped me pivot.
Okay. So I'm a product manager myself,
Mhm.
but I think our audience want to probably hear from you. What does a product manager do? How does a day in the life of a product manager? How would you describe it? What are the challenges you face?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, interesting tidbit. If you look at the history of product manager, I think it started with the consumer marketing companies. So think of companies like Colgate Palmolive or Procter and Gamble, right? So they used to have people who were called product managers because they had like thousands or maybe like hundreds of thousands of products, and they needed somebody who will look into the entire life cycle of the product and then determine what needs to be done to improve. And then when it came into tech, it became slightly overused word. So if you think about it, we have engineers, we have engineering managers, we have project managers, we have program managers, and we have product managers. So I think it depends on like team and company to define what role a product manager does. Typically, product manager will be involved in a few things in the life cycle of the product. So if you are defining a problem and then asking what needs to be built for this problem, that is kind of like a 0 to 1 solution formation. So product managers will be involved in the initial ideation and research phases. And then there'll be heavy execution phase where you are implementing the requirements, you are making sure there are less bugs, you are making sure the customers like it. So you are taking the feedback and iterating. There is an execution phase. And
Mhm.
there are also like integration and other phases depending on what the product is. Like, for example, if you work on a product in AWS, typically after you've implemented and executed and launched the product, your next step will be how do I convert this into APIs, or how do I convert it into like an open source, or how do I give it as part of some other AWS library so that both buyers and sellers, it's a marketplace, can use it. So there are like multiple phases depending on the product's life cycle, and the product manager is expected to work on all of those. And they are expected to evolve depending on which phase in the life cycle a product is. So typically for me, most of my experience has been in consumer facing products. So in a consumer facing product, you are heavily focused on, hey, what are the consumer needs? And then, like, what are our success metrics to measure if there is a product market fit? So, at every stage, I think that is what you do. But depending on whether you are in the implementation phase or the ideation phase, the percentage of time you spend varies. So, in the ideation phase, typically you are spending 80 to 90% of your time looking at research report, doing market research, doing customer research. In the execution phase, you are spending most of your time in defining the roadmap, working with the teams, like probably being part of the engineering stand up, and then working with the QA teams to make sure all the bugs are getting fixed and identified, and then trying to run like beta and then initial customer testing to make sure you are iterating on things that did not work. So it's a spectrum, and depending on the life cycle, your work changes, but kind of product managers in most companies are expected to be jack of all trades.
Yeah, I agree. My career, have been a product manager on the business side, where I work on the user experience on the retail. Then I've been on the technical side as well. So I was a technical manager before transitioning into product management. So totally get it. Uh, you brought up a very good point. Back in the days, companies like Procter and Gamble, they all had product managers.
Yes.
They were managing physical products, and we do
Mhm.
that today as well. You are part of the Alexa team at Amazon. Do you manage the Echo devices, or just software that runs on them? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. I work predominantly on the software side.
Mhm.
So if you think of like Alexa, Amazon and its devices, and where like Alexa comes in, so Amazon has a lot of different suites of hardware products. So they have tablets, they have smart glasses, they have like a CarPlay system that goes into physical cars, mostly like BMW cars. They have the Echo devices. And inside of Echo, they have devices that are audio only and devices that have a screen. They also have like Fire TV and then Kindle, which probably like everyone will know about. So they have a spectrum of products, and these are
Mhm.
just consumer facing products that I'm talking about. In addition, if you go into an Amazon warehouse, they have like drones, they have like robots that work in the warehouse for like packaging, storing the packets, aiding in delivery, etc. So it has a vast range of like hardware products. But when we say like Alexa Teams, I'm referring to the devices organization, which Alexa, Kindle, tablets, Fire TV are all part of. And I started working on the Alexa Echo devices. So Echo Show, or like the Echo Dot, and my focus was mainly on improving the Alexa AI, pretty
Mhm.
much on the discovery of things. Like for example, if you're asking a question about, hey, what is the top news today, it is a discovery of a fact, and I was working on fine tuning the Alexa model to make sure it gives you the relevant information, and then it presents it to you in a form factor that helps you. Like if there is a screen, probably it can talk less and it can show more articles on the screen for you. Scroll it, and then you can decide which one you want to run deeper. If it is a non-screen device, then it needs to be smarter to understand where it needs to summarize, where it needs to stop, where it needs to gather input. So I was working mostly on that. And now I'm trying to integrate it into the tablets product as well. And To your question, mostly on the devices side, we have a split. There are a few product managers who are heavily on the hardware side of things. They look at, like what component needs to go, what screen needs to go, whether it is matte or glossy. Do we need this particular chip inside? Do we need this dongle inside? They also look at different products that are available in the market and then decide which one is better for the product. They focus heavily on the hardware side of things. And
Yep.
then there is a software suite of teams, which is also like divided. So we have audio, we have video, we have discovery, we have AI assistant, we have like games. And then obviously like account management. There are like a lot of aspects when it comes to software management, and these are like separate teams that work, and we
Okay.
work together. Uh, if I were to contrast and compare a heavily like web or mobile app based product to the Alexa based products, I would say my first learning was there is a lead time, because you finalize the hardware and then it needs to get manufactured in the factory, and then you test it with the final product. As opposed to web or mobile app, where it's only like a days or hours or weeks, depending on how your teams launch cadences. So this was like one of the learnings, but other than that, it's very typical, like software side teams, however they work on web or mobile app, we work the same way.
Okay. Cool. Uh, so, day in your life. So, I know you kind of talked a little bit about it, but if you want to like summarize how your morning huddles, how does your day go, and maybe some challenges that you face in your probably in a day to day activities.
Yeah. So day in a life typically I would say is filled with meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
So as a product manager, you are an integration point between different functions. And typically in most companies, the functions that you will be closely working with are design and engineering. So of course, I have my touch points with the engineering team. I have my touch points with the design team. I also work with the customer research team. Sometimes in companies, research and design are part of the same org, but there are typically like two different people who are doing the work. So I work
Mhm.
with research teams as well. Currently, I work with marketing teams because we are trying to refine our go-to-market strategy, and I also work with beta teams for iteration. typically, I would say you will be working with 2+ cross-functional teams. So your meetings will be meeting your peer like product teams, meeting your engineering team, meeting your design team, and then depending on what are the needs of the product, these other teams. And in my if you look at the day in my life, and then if you look at my calendar, I'll try to time box at least hour or hour and a half for my own work. Otherwise, it gets filled with meetings. So I am typically like very rigorous about organization. I put like recurring meetings on my calendar and recurring work blocks, which enables me to do work. And most of the work that product manager does is not monotonous or mundane. So everything is different every time. So you need a lot more concentration and focus. So you need to time box. If it is not available to you, you need to force it. Otherwise, you are going to struggle finishing up your work within like the 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever you decide. So that's what I do. And I think main challenge you would have understood with so many meetings, the main challenge is when do you find time for focused work versus when do you find time for just meeting with other people. And then because you are the focal or integration point, a lot of questions on decision making comes to you, and you need to be like very thorough about it. There are some decisions in Amazon's parlance, they call it one-way door and two-way doors. So two-way doors are decisions which does not impact heavily. So you decide on one path, and then at a future point you can modify it if you found out that the path you went on isn't the ideal. One way door decisions are things where you cannot change later on. Like for example, let's say we decided to go with a particular screen for the tablet, and then we gave a go ahead to the factory and they start producing it. It's kind of a one-way door, because if you want to change that, you will be impacting the launch timelines, you'll be impacting the cost, the factory has to stop its work. So those kind of decisions have a heavy bearing compared to the
Mhm.
two-way door decisions. So as a product manager, my biggest challenge is first understanding and classifying if that is a one-way door decision or a two-way door decision, and then trying to go faster and fail faster and learn for two-way door decisions, but being thorough and having like a review with a peer or with your manager for the one-way door decisions.
I've heard about this one-way door and two-way door
Mhm.
decision making from Jeff Bezos in one of his videos. So it's great that uh, everyone in an organization are speaking the same language. It's not something just that the CEO or the ex-CEO of Amazon is talking, and uh, rest of the company is having a different kind of design, a different way of doing things. So kind of it matches. I think that's really good for
Yep,
a
yep.
company like Amazon.
Yeah, it amazed me as well. And they have a very thorough onboarding process for new joinees where they go in detail about the Amazon way of doing things and the leadership principles. So it's pretty interesting and it percolates throughout the company.
Okay, good. Uh, Talk a little bit about the impact of AI in your job, product management. Um, how does it make life better? Does it make uh, life more strenuous? How does AI has helped you or challenged you at your work?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it has made life better or strenuous, but definitely it has introduced a lot of change in the way I work.
Yeah.
So before all these Gen AI tools were available, um, as a product manager, typically when you don't have like a dedicated design resource, or when you don't have engineers with bandwidth to work on, like iterations, call it like 90% of the time the team is focused on the defined requirements, and 10% you are trying to find out like prototype new areas that the product can evolve into. And that prototyping, typically you will be in crunch of resources. It's not like you will have a free flow of resources to do everything that you wanted to do. And most of the time product managers will be trying to hone in on making the requirements very easier, crisper, removing ambiguity, doing wireframes. But now with Gen AI, instead of just putting things on paper, I can build things. One example was I was trying to do some variations for clock customization on tablets. And instead of me saying, hey, these are like 10 different ideas, and then giving like a wireframe to the engineering team, I just used a Gen AI coding ID. And then I told the engineering team, this is what I'm expecting. So you have like these settings. If I click on these settings, this is how it changes. And then these are the kind of animations I'm looking for. And this is the overall like end-to-end product working. And then that gives them a better idea for their technical design, and also asking me clarifying questions. So definitely the Gen AI has reduced the gap or increased the speed with which prototyping could be done. But I think it also introduces a lot of complexities. Ideas, people say, is very cheap. So, like, everybody will become more opinionated. So, it is more work, more stress for a product manager to be right and then to follow their gut, and also more work if there is not consensus. And with the velocity, sometimes there are too much of decision making too quickly. In the older days, you will be prototyping, and then you will have like a few eyes, you will be like doing a initial testing. But nowadays people expect things to evolve so much faster, because they are, hey, you are not coding, it's going to be the Gen AI. So why do you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4? Just jump from 1 to 10 and 10 to 20. And then sometimes you lose the bit of learnings that you would have got when you moved from 1, 2, 3, 4 sequentially. But that is that depends on the team. Some teams focus on velocity, some teams focus on learnings. So depending on what you want to do, the way you use Gen AI changes. But I definitely feel it is a great enabler. A lot
Okay.
of people are afraid that AI is going to take over the jobs. Especially for a product manager, there was a lot of hype on, hey, like, AI can write documents, AI can write use cases. So why do you need product managers? But I still think they are enablers for product managers, but they cannot think like a customer.
Replace.
So
Yeah.
you still want the product manager to say, hey, this is what makes sense for the customer, this is how we need to prioritize. And
Mhm.
then when I'm writing use cases today, I don't worry about grammar, I don't worry about consistency of the language. I just write all the bullets and I give it to AI and I tell it, hey, like, check the grammar and make sure it is in a consistent voice. So that
Mhm.
ways I'm saving time, but I am doing most of the thinking work with the help of AI, but AI is not giving me direction. So that's how it's evolved.
Okay. So it's a perfect assistant
I
for
don't know
you.
perfect, but it's a great assistant.
Yeah. Got it. Uh, so, what are the skills? Because a lot of our viewers, audience, uh, they would definitely want to like explore product management as a career, and most of them are like us, different uh,
Mhm.
different line of work, right? Not necessarily product management. So, what are the skills do you think a product manager should have uh, to to be at to get a job at Amazon? So let's start about must have, then we can talk about good to have, right? Let's
Yeah.
talk about must haves first.
Yes. So Amazon has three different tiers of product managers, or three different categories of product managers. So they do have product managers who are non-technical.
Mhm.
And then they have technical product managers, and then they have technical product managers who are also external facing. And for the first category, which is a non-technical product manager, uh, you are not required to be heavily collaborating with the engineering teams. So this is very similar to the marketing or like consumer marketing product managers that we spoke about. Like someone in Procter and Gamble, you don't expect them to sit with the engineering team, be part of the engineering stand-ups, and then work on understanding the use cases, unit test cases, etc. Right? So that is the first category. The product manager technical is any tech company. They work very closely with engineering. Most of the time, they are working on a digital product. And then the external services are product managers in AWS who need to be heavily tech product, but they need to evangelize the product outside of the company as well. So there is an aspect of talking to a lot of external customers where these external customers are also businesses, and trying to scale this product to other businesses outside of Amazon. So these are the three categories. And typically the interview process for all of these roles are pretty similar.
Mhm.
And in terms of the skills that Amazon looks for, they are very, very particular about their leadership principles. If you search for Amazon leadership principles, you will see a list. And at a specific time, you are like a puzzle piece in a team. So the team that is trying to hire you will be trying to hire you to fill a gap in a particular area. Either they'll be trying to hire you so that they can understand their customers very better, or they are trying to hire you to push the velocity of the product, or the team is very back end heavy and they want somebody who has a lot of consumer experience to tell them how their consumer facing front end should evolve. It's a specific skill that they are looking for. So the must haves for Amazon product manager, I would say, is willingness to dive into the unknown. You have to be a team player, and pretty much you should be able to work autonomously. So I think these are the three major skills that they look at. And then depending on the role, depending on the team, there'll be like additional capabilities that they are looking for. And
Okay.
that's why instead of saying, hey, like we need product managers to know design or to know coding, they say, hey, we need product managers who excel in these leadership principles, because Amazon believes that any skill is learnable. So they look for your attitude and aptitude. Hey, can you come and be part of this team and elevate the team? That's what they are trying to assess, and not your technical skills.
Okay. What about like good to have?
Good to have. I think a lot of the time in Amazon, at least, people are opinionated and they are firm about their opinions. So you should be very good in taking feedback and iterating.
Mhm.
And you should also be good in expressing your ideas clearly on paper. Like Amazon is very famous for their PR FAQ, which is called a press release and frequently asked questions. Before starting any product or feature, they'll ask you what is the end goal. So that is the press release, right? Like where, as a journalist who's coming to your launch event, is saying about whatever you launched on that day. And then the frequently asked questions, which looks at both the consumer side as well as business side. There you pour into like the data, feasibility, impact, ROI, everything. So that is how a product manager starts with. So I think good to have is all these areas: being a champion, customer experience, understanding the business side of things, and being good with data so you can substantiate why you took certain decisions. So those three.
Okay. So let's talk about um the hiring and interview process, right?
Mhm.
So, what would you recommend for someone who want to switch to product management from, let's say, technology as a developer, an
Mhm.
engineer? I think
Mhm.
for them, technical product manager would be a very good
Yes.
role,
Yes.
right? And for someone who is not, what would you recommend? What kind of roles or what kind of skills should they develop for them to like at least interview at Amazon?
Yeah. So I'll answer in two parts. First one, in Amazon, they encourage internal movements.
Mm.
So you can come in as a developer and you can switch to a product manager. You can switch to any functions. So don't restrain yourself saying, hey, I don't have an experience in so and so, so they will not even consider me. You have two parts. Either you apply for that role directly and then you go through the interview process, or you can, if you are an engineer, you can join as an engineer in Amazon and then pivot into product management or program management, or whatever field you like. So there are two possibilities. And if you are looking for a product manager interview at Amazon, and you are a technical engineer, like you were an engineer, you were in the technical stream, then I think most of the time the gap will be in, were you able to take decisions that defined a particular product area, and were you able to think as a customer? So if you are able to substantiate both, like for example, typically engineers, they work on requirements that were given to them. They look at the requirements, they ask clarifying questions, but they do not take a vague problem and then translate it into requirements. For example, if there is a dashboard that is taking 10 hours to load, an engineer might work on optimizing it and bring down the processing time to 2 hours. But then we need to track this particular metric to understand if customers like the product or not. So I need to build this dashboard, is what the product manager does. So you have the second 50%. Just try to make sure you have some experience in the first 50% that you can show up as your product manager skill to the recruiters, right? So if you are looking for a direct product manager interview, then you have to at least bring in 2 or 3 examples where you are saying, hey, I can think as a product manager. If you give me like a vague question, I can break it down into what needs to be done, and then I can give the requirements of what needs to be done. That's what they'll be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many rounds of interviews does a product manager have? Is it
Yep.
same for technical and non-technical as well?
It is the same. Typically,
Okay.
you will have one phone interview round, and then
Mm,
the phone interview round, um, like Amazon has an ETA of getting back in 2 days.
mm,
Phone interview is like a go no go decision. Once you have a go in the phone interview round, you will have an on site, typically 4 rounds. And then it'll be different cross functional teams. You will talk with one PM, you will talk with one engineer, you will talk with one another function, marketing, design, consumer research. And then you will talk with one like leadership person. So these will be the 4 rounds. And Amazon interview process, though the interview is done by a specific team you're applying for, the interview is valid for all of Amazon. So in my case, I interviewed for a team in AWS, and then the team said, hey, great candidate, she's not a perfect fit for the role we are looking for, but you should explore more inside Amazon. So for me, after I completed the on-site interviews, I was put into this team match process where I was able to talk to more hiring managers. Those are informal rounds, not interviews. So you are talking to a hiring manager, your yes decision doesn't get converted into a no. It's
okay.
just finding the right team where you are happy and the team is happy to have you. And then after the team fit, you will go into the offer letter and then the other joining formalities.
Okay. So, what should a candidate expect during the phone interview? What kind of questions should they expect?
Yeah. Amazon for all the 5 interview, like phone plus the 4 on site interviews, all of them are what is called behavioral interviews. So they will not ask you to solve a hypothetical problem. They will not give you a case study. So most of the questions are going to be, hey, tell me about something. And then from what you mentioned, they'll be asking you other questions to understand it better. And from an interviewer perspective, most of the time what we are looking at is fit to the leadership principles. So for example, there is a leadership principle called "are right a lot." So if I am trying to assess you for that leadership principle, then I'll be asking you questions about, hey, tell me a time when nobody in your team agreed to your particular proposal, but you still like implemented it. Like the questions will be based on your experience, but they are trying
Mm,
to assess a particular capability of yours. And a very good practice for answering these type of questions is what is called the STAR method. So
mm,
situation, task, action, and result. So situation, obviously, if Saranya is the interviewer, I'm not going to understand, like Abhilash's team, or what was the challenge, how many people were there, what is your customer base. So situation is where you try to explain it to me so I get an understanding and we are on the same footing.
Mhm.
Task is what was the challenge you are trying to resolve. You should explain the task as well, because I might not be working on consumer products, so I might not understand the challenge in the task better. So explain the situation, explain the task, and then action is what you did in that situation, and result is what was the result, what was your learnings. So typically structure it in that way. It is not mandatory. Like Amazon interviewers are told to give like a great interview experience to candidates. So even if you are jumbling or if you are not covering like all of these aspects, they'll ask you more and more questions and try to figure out like everything. But if you follow the star format, it is easier. And I think if it is easier, then it gives the interviewer time to assess more leadership qualities, and then more leadership leadership principles match, so you can use your time more effectively and bring out more of your capabilities that will give you a better chance to get picked.
Okay. So that's the phone interview.
That's for all of the interviews. So
All
all
interview.
of the
Okay.
interviews are going to be in the same format, and I think
Okay.
like you need not complicate. Just the plain like star method will work absolutely well.
For all rounds. Okay. So what should a candidate expect on an on-site interview? You said there are like 4 rounds, right?
Yes.
So what should they expect? Is there going to be some kind of whiteboarding uh, questions? Talk a little bit about that.
Yep. So, like during COVID times, even the on-site interviews were, like remote,
Yeah.
over a video conference. But now I think it depends. There isn't like a blanket guidance towards, hey, like everything has to be in person or everything has to be over video conferencing. So yours could be either an in person where you walk into an office and then you meet the person in flesh and you talk to them, or it could be over a video conferencing. And whiteboarding isn't mandatory. Though I would say most of the times when they ask you a question, try to take a pause, like structure your answers. You can use your like pen, paper, or whiteboard to take notes. You can draw. All that is particularly fine, but it is not mandatory. So most of it is going to come from how you explain your situation and your impact. So focus on that. Yeah, other things are optional.
Okay. Uh, so first, you said in the 4 rounds, the first round or one of the rounds would be like leadership. The other one
Yes.
would be with engineering team.
Yeah.
Uh, so and then one is going to be with the product manager
Mhm.
itself, right? So talk a
Yes.
little bit about kind of questions they should expect in
Yeah.
each of these rounds.
Yeah. So in the round with the product manager, it will typically be on your product skills, right? Are you able
Okay.
to break down an ambiguous problem? Where are you using data? Where are you using your gut? Where are you using research? So those will be the questions they will focus on. The engineering round will be more on collaboration. So how did you work with engineering team? What were the challenges that you faced? What did you learn? If there was like a problem, how did you overcome the problem? So expect more on collaboration. The cross-functional ones will be, I would say, communication focused. Are you able to clearly articulate your idea? Are you able to
Mhm.
understand the different language these cross-functional teams speak? And then you also speak in a language that they can understand. So it's more like communication focused.
Mhm.
The leadership round will be where they assess the company fit and team fit. So it's typically a person, like let's say you're applying for IL5, right? Typically, it'll be a person who's above in hierarchy. So who comes and tries to figure out, hey, like, is this person a good fit for Amazon? Is this person a good fit for the team? So for my interview, I had a VP of that product come and take that fourth round of interview for me. And uh, all of these 4 rounds the interviewer will be assigned a particular leadership principle that they are trying to gain more inputs on. So based on your resume, they would already say, oh, this person is strong in so and so. And then for these areas, we do not have strong signals from what they have written in their resume. So can you go and ask questions and give me a validation of, are they good in these? So that's how the hiring team gives the problem to the interviewers.
Okay.
So typically they'll be trying to assess you on 2 or 3 leadership principles. So
Okay.
even though you have like a strong like a story, like for example, let's say you stumbled on an invention, you were the first in the world, but then the hiring manager might have asked the interviewer to test for frugality, so they wouldn't go into why your invention was the world famous invention. They'll be like, what amount of resources did you use? So they will try to ask those follow-up questions that will give them your ability and capabilities on that particular leadership principle. But
Okay.
typically, yeah, so collaboration, communication, your product skills, and then whether you are like a culture fit. So that is what they are trying to assess.
Okay. Do you recommend candidates to go over the leadership principles of Amazon before attending the
Strongly
interview?
recommend. Strongly recommend.
Okay.
I think the Amazon recruiters will also give you that guidance. So I will
Okay.
strongly recommend going over the leadership principles and trying to understand what it is. Going over the STAR method, just to structure in your mind as to how you want to tell your answers, right? Like situation, task, action, and result. And then very good interview preparation will be like, we all have tons of experience, whether even if you're a fresh college grad, you are working on some of your projects, internships, we all have tons of experience. And oftentimes when you are asked a question, you don't know which one to pick, and then like how to answer. So I would say for each of these leadership principles, try to put in which story maps closely. Like for example, if they are asking, hey, like velocity or like speed, right? Like tell me something that you launched like very quickly. I might have launched like 10 products, but then if I'm thinking and taking time to determine like which one I should pick, I've already lost my structure, and then I've already lost my ability to give the interviewer more chance to ask me another question and assess one more capability, right? So instead of that, all 13 leadership principle, you write down in a paper, and then
Mhm.
you map it with your experiences and say, oh, if they ask me about speed, I will talk to them about this Yahoo article page revamp. I will talk to them about clock customization. So it is easier for you to not like stumble and then make good use of the time.
Okay. You talked about resume.
Yes.
So, do you take interviews?
Yep.
Uh, you
I've
do.
started
Okay.
taking interviews. Yes.
Okay. So, what do you look in a candidate's resume uh, that kind of makes you realize, okay, this could be a very good candidate. We should definitely interview them,
Yeah.
or even going through the HR, the
Mhm.
recruiter approval process. So,
Yeah, I
tell
mean,
us a little bit about that.
typically
Yeah.
as interviewers, we don't look at the application pool and pick candidates.
Hmm.
The recruiting coordinator and the hiring manager, they do that.
Okay.
And mostly what they look for is, like I mentioned, this person has to be the missing puzzle piece. So, do they have the skills that will supplement and complement?
Okay.
Right. So, that is what they are looking at. So, in your resume, you need not explain all the tactical things, but explain the important things and your impact so that they'll understand where you are coming from.
Okay.
And if you are applying to multiple roles in Amazon, because Amazon interview process is applicable for all of the company, it is not necessary that your resume should look drastically different from one role to another. Just paint a picture of your overall experience and overall of you as a person, and I think they know how to relate it and then pick the right person for that puzzle piece.
Okay. Uh, New grad versus an experienced product manager. Is the interview any different for these two sections of product managers at all, or it's same?
Not
for
in
everyone?
terms of the format. They are like pretty same. For like internships, I think there might be a different process. But
Okay.
new grad versus experience, there is no change in the interview process. But then I think what changes is the level of impact the interviewer is expecting from you, right?
Okay.
So for a new grad, even if like they are not looking at you to work on like this scale, like launched it for 100K users or like 1 million users or 10 million users. As an experienced product manager, they are looking at scale, and then what KPIs did you meet the goal, did you not meet the goal, like more aspects.
Okay.
So the impact that is expected varies, but the format remains the same.
Okay. And for a candidate to interview at Amazon, are there any resources or any practice questions they should be trying to work on before getting to the interview?
Um, Nothing from like official Amazon. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, the leadership principles are out in the open. And then if you do like a regular search for behavioral interview questions, most of those will be relevant for Amazon as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You recommend a lot of
If
practice, though.
I recommend a lot of practice. I recommend looking at sources like LinkedIn or just doing search. There are a lot of like product influencers who talk about behavioral interviews. They talk about the STAR method. They have some sample like 10, 20 behavioral questions. So it's easily available. Look for those questions, pick 3 or 4 and try to practice it. Like you can assume someone asked you the question and then try saying the answer.
Mhm.
Now you can even use a lot of like Gen AI tools. Like you can use Gemini or ChatGPT and ask it, hey, like how did I fare? Was it better in like STAR method, or did you understand my impact? So give
Mhm.
it a try, but not extensive practice. I would definitely encourage at least like 3 questions and practicing so that it is not new when you are talking to the interviewer.
Okay. I think I've got a good idea about the hiring process, the resume, challenges of a product manager at Amazon, and kind of the fun life of a product manager.
That's true.
Now, yeah, now let's get into the challenge.
Mhm,
And this mostly, to for folks to understand what should be their thought process when
mhm.
an interviewer asks the question. I leave it up to you to come up with a question and then how the thought process behind how you want to solve this, break it down into different pieces, and then
Mhm.
tackle one by one. So, do you have any question in mind?
No, but I can think of one. So one fun question is, which a lot of people don't know how to approach is, tell me about your biggest failure, right?
Okay.
So for a question like that, people are like, hey, like should I say I don't have failures, or should I bring out an experience which is not a great failure so that people don't think that I was a fool or I didn't know my skill, etc. Right? So let's say the interviewer asked me to tell about my biggest failure. Here, a couple of things for the person who is interviewing, right? So this past experience does not reflect on your potential. So the interviewer is not trying to think, oh, this person doesn't know anything. They are just
Hmm.
trying to think what you learned from it and how you fixed in future to make sure there is no repetition of it. So
Okay.
approach it from that aspect. So if you ask me about my biggest failure, typically the answer I give is, hey, I want to talk to you about a situation which happened when I was in Yahoo. I was still a junior manager at Yahoo, and I was tasked with looking at the ad density and then the ad formats that go in on the Yahoo articles. So if you go into yahoo.com, you click on a link, it opens up a page. That is what we call the article page at Yahoo. And typically that page has a content and it also has ads because Yahoo is business model is based on ads. There isn't a ton of subscription based products that Yahoo launches. So one project that I worked on was with the advertisement team
Mhm.
on launching a new ad product at the end of the article. So once you've read the entire article, you will see an ad, and that ad will be followed by suggestions for like next articles or suggestions for topics that you can explore, which is
Yep.
like a personalized suggestion based on what Yahoo knows about you and based on your reading patterns. And typically, the goal for a company like Yahoo is retaining the users and user engagement. So this advertisement that is at the end of the article, it should serve as a time pause to the customer and not as a distraction point. And I think as a junior product manager, I failed to understand that. So I ended up launching an ad product which had like a square ad, which means the customer, once they've reached at the end of the article, doesn't even realize there are like more suggestions that they can look at and determine what to read next. And this ad was too big that sometimes it had like surveys and sometimes it had like unrelated suggestions. So it brought down the quality of the reading experience drastically. But luckily for me, once we launched this experiment, we were running an A/B test. So it reflected very clearly on the metrics. And then I was able to jump into and then bring this data to the ads team and tell them, hey, this is a bad experience for the customers. Though we might be getting some more ad dollars, we are losing a lot of repeat customers. We are losing dollars in terms of time spent and engagement. So we should scrap this project.
Mhm.
And then I worked with them on an alternate, right? Rather than saying, don't show any ads, it was your mistake. It was like share the blame and responsibility. I did not do like proper, like digging down. I did not do like proper diligence when launching. So now based on this data, this is my criteria. It cannot exceed this size. It cannot have like these type of ads. So can you help me come up with a new ad product so that it'll be a win-win? And I ended up launching a different ad product. And this helped me build trust with the ad team. Eventually, I went on to own the entire article experience and
Mhm.
redesigned it. And as part of the redesign, one of the projects that I launched successfully was reducing the number of ads without impacting the ad revenue. So this initial trust where I owned up to my mistake and then I was willing to work with that team helped me to work with them in future on a large scale project where it was reducing the number of ads, which is not ideal for the ads team, but they were able to partner with me on that to have some strong KPIs, and it was a win-win as well. So that is my biggest learning and this is my biggest failure.
Okay, so that's the answer
Yep,
for the question. What was your
exactly.
biggest failure?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And typically the interviewer will ask, okay, what was your role? Like, why didn't you find it before?
Hmm.
And then when you went and presented to the ads team, did they just say yes or did you receive pushback? They'll try to assess more on like what happened and then what were the Amazon leadership principles that you exhibited there and how strong you are with those.
Okay. Yeah, I was while you were telling me about that, I was assessing you on that star situation, task, action, and the result. So yeah, that's good. And I guess most of the suggestions you have mentioned, it's not just applicable for Amazon, but for many other companies as well. My interview process has been pretty much same. We have interview with a leadership executive, then with the product manager, and then engineering team. So it's pretty common these rounds across different companies. So that is good. It was great talking to you. We are about time. Any last parting words?
The only like if there is someone who is interested in giving a shot at Amazon, the only advice I will give is don't be like phased out by the big names. Like typically people say, oh, Amazon is part of the FANG, and then it has a very like strenuous work culture and all. It is true. Amazon is like a big company. It's like a well-oiled machine, and then they expect you to work smart and they expect you to work on a lot of different problems. But it will not be monotonous. It is always going to be fun, and don't hesitate giving a try. Right. Typically, you're not penalized for the number of times you applied for a role or the number of interviews you took at Amazon. So do give it a try.
Okay. I think Amazon is one of those companies where they consider failure as wins,
Yes.
right? Yeah, I've heard that from Jeff Bezos as well. So thank you so much, Saranya. It was great talking to you. I hope there could be a bump in all the applications for product manager at Amazon.
I hope so too. And it was great talking to you, Abhi. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.